This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. On the show today is Nicho Hynes on track for an Origin jumper. Jack Wighton up for sale. What does that do to the rest of the player market? Phil Gould, top dog, or the human headline, as I like to call you now. Welcome.
Hey, Matty, what's doing?
Oh, a bit going on.
Hmm?
You know how to make the papers, don't you? You're very, very good.
Oh, it's not my fault what the media does with it.
No, us media.
You media?
Yes. Oh, you're everywhere. You've even drawn the wrath. Is that the word? The wrath of the Roosters.
Wrath.
The wrath. What's the wrath? Where have I come up with that?
I don't know what the wrath is.
I don't know. Well, the wrath is when the wrath, it gets too big for the wrath.
All right.
We'll get to that in a minute. Before I get on to yes, no, the first half field goal. Now, we all know you hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you hate it? I've never asked you why you hate it. What does it do? What's the psychology?
It came from a game many, many years ago that I was actually coaching in. We went up and played Newcastle Knights in a semi-final.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew Johns had one of those outstanding first halves, and they led us like 14-0. And right on the break, in front of a packed house, His Lordship drop kicks a 40-metre field goal, and they lead 15-0 at the break. Right? Just to show off, not for any other reason. So I've got into the dressing room, and my halftime talk was, he thinks 15's enough. The way he celebrated the field goal, he thinks 15's enough, that this game's over. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I think we beat them 32-15.
Oh,
so ever since then, I've said the first half field goal is a mock.
Right.
It's a mock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So there you go. So
then some years later, I was coaching him in Origin, and we weren't supposed to win, but we led something like, I think we led 20-4.
Yeah, he told us on the weekend
just before half time. Anyway, he kicked a field goal.
And you blew up.
In the last minute, and he walked up the tunnel. I said, what was that? I said, they better not score in the second half. He said, they won't. We beat them 32-4 or something. I said, don't you let them win from me.
Unlike Joey to show off on the footy field.
Oh, yeah, they had the finger in the air and the whole thing, you know. I went in and I said, he thinks they've got enough. I said, they haven't got anywhere near enough yet. I think it become a phobia with me about the first half field goal.
Very good, I like that. Let's get into our favourite segment.
Yes! No.
Hey.
No.
What's the matter?
No. Dear.
Oh, continues to set the rugby league world on fire, this segment. Question number 1. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Nicho Hynes is going to be the New South Wales number 6.
That's... No. If you mean is he going to be selected as the New South Wales number 6, I don't see that happening. Unless there's injury.
Okay.
What I can see him being, and particularly for the start of this series, is the New South Wales number 14.
Mm.
And I think if anything happened to Nathan Cleary or Jerome Luai in the lead up to that, he would easily wear the 7 or the 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you've asked me about 6 in particular, but he can handle either position very, very comfortably, and he's in extraordinary form. I said the other night on 100% footy, he plays without inhibition. He plays without fear. It's such a naturally gifted style. He plays so calmly, and he doesn't hesitate with anything that he does. It doesn't appear as though anything's going to be on, but then he just makes it happen. He's in extraordinary touch at the moment. He's really an improved player.
It's amazing how he's missed the start of the year, and he comes back into round 4, and they all just click in with him straight away, don't they?
Well, that's why halfbacks command the money that they do. And your team doesn't function without a rudder. It's as simple as that.
Mm.
You need a general. You need someone that you can all focus on, and everyone taps into that.
Mm.
You know, we were just talking about Andrew Johns. I mean, there were a lot of players that Andrew Johns played with over the years that should have been giving them a cut of his money because they weren't anywhere near half when he didn't play. And it's so true of your leading playmakers. It's why they can't command the big bucks. You know, they're the ones that win the close games. They're the ones that come up with the big plays, but everything emanates from them. And, you know, they talk about a spine, but, you know, the 7's the man.
Mm.
You know, you've got to have that bloke there that everyone else taps into. It's so much a part of their game to have an organising, calm, general, creative, fast, 7. And Nicho Hines slotting back into there, all of a sudden the machine looked well-oiled, didn't it?
Okay, sub-question. Nicho Hines will make his Origin debut this year.
Yes.
Very good. The Dolphins will make the 8.
No. No, I still don't see that. Whilst they've exceeded not everybody's expectations, because I've said to you in the first few weeks, I think they'll be very hard to beat, and Wayne Bennett's brilliant at this. I think what will get them over the course of a very long season will be wear and tear, and if they have injuries, exposing some of their young talent to the top tier very, very quickly. I think there are 8 better teams in the competition at the moment for the long haul. I think I remember when Wayne Bennett, when the Broncos first came into the competition and they coached that extraordinary game, they had an Origin class time. I mean, they had Wally and Alfie and all those sort of players. And remember they flogged Manly in the first game of the year, and everyone said, how's anyone going to beat by the Broncos? Well, by the end of the year, everyone was beating the Broncos. And they didn't make the top 5 for another 3 seasons. So I don't think they got to the top 5 until 1990. So it's not easy. I think their depth will be tested. Whilst I think there is a lot of talent in their depth, a lot of young talent that you haven't seen yet, it might be a little bit early to sustain a run to the finals. But, if they can't make the 8, they're going to shock a few who think they can, which they've already done. I think they're certainly a great acquisition to the competition and will be for a long time.
O'Sullivan's big loss. He had surgery yesterday, I believe. I saw on Twitter, and he's saying 10 to 12 weeks. So he's such an important
that's
factor
your halfback.
in that team.
That's your halfback.
Anthony Milford's wearing the 7 this week. Big test.
Well, he's got experience, and we know the other young kid's a great player.
Yeah.
That's the first of many.
Yeah.
And they've got some older players there too that have got to play week in, week out for a long time. It's wear and tear.
Ahead of his 250th NRL game this weekend, Dane Gagai should be considered among Queensland's greatest ever outside backs.
Yes! He's a beauty, particularly at Origin level. His club form hasn't always matched his Origin stuff, but he never fails at Origin level.
So I've put his try-scoring feats down here. 249 NRL games, so 250 this weekend. 74 tries, 29% strike rate. For Queensland, 21 games, 12 tries.
Yeah.
So better than 50%. For Australia, he scored 4 tries in 7 games. So when you put a rep jumper on him, he jumps out of the ground. He's
a phenomenal footballer. He really is. And as I say, when he's wearing those Queensland and national colours, he just goes to another level. And a lot of that could too be the quality of players that he's playing with at the club level as to whether or not he's getting that service and that he gets in the Origin sides. But no better competitor. There are a number of players that have always been great when they've pulled on that Queensland jersey, and Dane Gagai is certainly one of them.
The Doncaster is the race you'd like to win as an owner. Yes!
I'd like to win a maiden at Kembla.
Yes,
I don't care where the race is.
Right.
I'm happy to win a maiden at Mudgee.
You've won a few maidens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
You had a runner in the Doncaster a couple of years back.
I did. Yeah, we did. He got in. It was a first emergency, but he got a run on the day, and he sat 8 and 9 deep the whole way. Thanks luck, and drew barrier 20 or something or other. But it's Doncaster. When I was growing up, was a big race. It was a huge race, and some great horses have won it over the years. But I was actually there the day you were talking about famous golden slippers a couple of weeks ago. I remember when Imogil, trained by Tommy Smith, was like a 3-1 on favourite, $1.25 favourite.
In a Doncaster?
In a golden slipper, and fell at the home turn. The horse fell at the home turn, and the horse that won that golden slipper, I'm sure, was a horse called Tontonen. Tontonen went on to win a Doncaster, and I was there the day that he won, and that was the day where we had the streakers on the Randwick course proper. Streakers ran out in front of the winning post. Do you remember this? Too old?
No.
Yeah, streakers ran out onto the Randwick race course just before the race.
So not while the race was on?
I think Tontonen was trained by Bart Cummings, from memory. You're testing my memory. I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong. Yeah, but it's always, the big mile race. Everyone talked about the big mile at Randwick, the metric mile, 1,600 metres, and the Doncaster's a wonderful thing with the championships coming up. It's the For me, it's still the marquee race, the race of the carnival.
Got to beat the handicapper in the Doncaster, don't you?
Yeah, they're getting good at it too. Yeah.
Always rains Doncaster Day, doesn't it? Feels like there's a bit of rain around Sydney at the moment.
Yeah, we get a bit of rain this time of the year every year, I think.
Yeah. Last question. Joseph Swahili will be in rugby league next season.
Well, probably he's taken up his option to play.
Because you've told him to not let the door hit his Chaminda arse on the way out.
Yeah.
So Trent Robinson spoke at Roosters training this morning. I'm really scared here. And obviously he was asked about your comments from 100% Footy on Monday night, and this is his response.
Yeah, ridiculous comment to say about Joey and what he would do. He can stick to his turf and we'll stick to ours and how we want to deal with it. And it showed a fair bit of fear for me about another code. But the fact is, we have the best rugby competition, league or union, in the world. That's what the NRL is. We're going to have a great competition, always. And this is the pinnacle of any rugby competition in the world. So stay cool, relax. We're going to produce players. And don't come out with fearful comments about other codes and all of that. Respect both sides of it, enjoy parts of their game, but stand tall on what our game is. So just relax.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Want to respond?
No, you mistake me for someone who cares what he says. But he can only stick up for his player, and he's got to build his relationship with the player because he's got him there for another 18 months. I fear nothing, and I fear no one, so I'm not sure what he's talking about there.
Okay. What I did want to ask you about that, and look, you've made your point clear, so there's no point in going over it. What made you so fired up about this?
I wasn't fired up. What's the vision? I wasn't really fired up at all.
You've obviously got a very forthright opinion on players that defect to rugby union. Now, we talk about player movements all the time.
I'm saying he's made his decision. Go. Why do we need him here in the game in the next 18 months when every time he handles the ball, that's what commentators are going to be talking about?
But why does that hurt the game?
I think it is. It's a competition between the codes. It's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get away from that fact. I don't care that Trent Robinson loves rugby. I don't love rugby. I don't even watch rugby. So I have no interest in it whatsoever.
We're the rugby broadcaster. I love the game. Okay. But it just seemed, I don't know. I mean, we talk about the player market all the time and players signing to change clubs. Do you not see that? You see it very differently, that a player can commit to a club 12 months ahead, but a player who decides to change code, you see that, you view that
in the rugby league.
Yeah. You view that differently.
What's that?
Do you view
they're the rules in our game. You can sign with a club 12 months in advance. You can't sign with another club 2 years in advance, as he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Which means he's in our game for the next couple of years promoting rugby. That's what it's going to be. And I'm saying, let him go now. Go now. If you want to be a rugby player, go and be a rugby player.
Mm.
I think it's a kick in the guts for the Roosters. I really do. And I think they'll be quite upset about it. On the inside, what they say publicly means nothing to me. But I'm quite sure it'll be a kick in the guts for the people there that have nurtured him and brought him through at a young age and graduated him through to first grade and representative level. I think it'll be a kick in the guts for Samoa too, because he played for Samoa in the last World Cup, and our Pacific Island nations are doing great things, and we're looking to promote international rugby league in our own way. And a player like Suali'i would be a major draw card to that. But he not only turned his back on the Roosters, he's not only turned his back on the NRL, he's turned his back on Samoa too. But they're a decision that he made, and obviously money talks, and it's as simple as that. I'm just saying, we don't need him.
Hmm. Is it really promoting rugby if he's wearing a Roosters jumper for the next 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why, do you think it's a good thing?
I don't think it's a good thing. I suppose it's just the reality of professional sport. But yeah, I mean, I can.
Well, I remember we had a rule that we couldn't let our players go and even trial with the NFL. They wouldn't even let them go over there and do those camps.
Right.
All right.
Did we bring in a rule about that?
I think we did at the time. I think there was a couple that went across there. We said, they were threatening to go across there or whatever. I mean, they're all to their opinion. I don't care what other people's opinions are. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
As for whether I'm running the Bulldogs or, Upper Gumbuckta West, it makes no difference to me. I'm working for Channel 9 in the media and I'm entitled to an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an opinion based on a lot of experience.
You've said he was going to go to rugby, though. And the
said-
writing was on the wall when
I've said
Tedesco
it.
re-signed
I've
the
said it
club.
for 2 years, and people at the Roosters wanted to know what I was saying and why I was saying it. Simple as that. So not only
Well, people at the Roosters have asked you why you were saying that.
yeah, they've asked people around me why he was saying that. What does he know that we don't know? I said he will go to rugby. Rugby league won't hold him. He won't hold. I know his manager. I know what the mentality is, and I just knew where he would end up. Right, but he's got that out of the profile he's earned in rugby league. I think the Roosters inwardly would be extremely disappointed. Extremely disappointed. You can't tell me they're happy about Joseph turning their back on him and leaving the game in 18 months' time after all the development work they've put into him. So they can stand there and pontificate at a press conference and shoot the messenger, but the messenger didn't do it. Joseph did.
When you say mentality, if he and his management, are you talking
He
about
he talked about European rugby. Like Radradra is over there playing in Europe. I think he's earning close to $2 million a year. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary money in that code, and that's what I'm saying. Every now and then a player comes along that's going to be too big, right? And if you've got the management so inclined, that's what they'll do. They'll go to rugby. Simple as that.
So,
it's a good test. I agree that this is the best rugby or rugby league competition in the world. You don't develop players out of the players who are developed through this system in these clubs, in these NRL clubs, are the best rugby or rugby league class players in the world. I've got no doubt about that. But they're two very different games. The games are becoming less similar over periods. Back years and years ago, there was some similarity. I see no similarity between the two codes at the moment. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's very hard for union converts and even rugby league converts to go over there and do a great job.
So you've talked, and we've talked on this podcast about the original defectors.
Yeah, and you get a player that does this, and it's advertised that he's getting whatever money, $1.5 million. All that is an incentive for other young kids to do the same.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, when you talk about this money, it's unrealistic that someone's going to earn that money in rugby league. If the rugby union is going to throw this kind of money around, is it inevitable we're going to get more?
Which means parents, managers, and those that don't have a great loyalty to the game of rugby league can use rugby league as a stepping stone into their rugby career. I did this with Ryan Cross years and years ago. He was a schoolboy genius in rugby. I said, if you want to be a Wallaby, come and play rugby league. It'll prepare you the best. He was going to come for 2 or 3 years. I think he stayed for nearly a decade. I've got no fear of rugby. I know that we're a better game. But what I do have is a concern that when this happens, it's an incentive for others to want to do the same. And it's going to blow our market out of the water too. We can't afford to be paying those sort of players $1.6 million a year. Which means, what do we do with these young fellas? Do we keep them in the system and spend our time and get the relationship with them and have our staff work with them, only to see them, even before they've reached the peak of their career, just jump over there because they've got money to do it and they're looking for a profile signing? It's not going to help the Wallabies win anything.
Okay, so I think I'm keyed in a bit more to where you're coming from there. You don't want rugby league used as a stepping stone or a ladder to big money.
I don't want it to be a feeder system to anything else, whatsoever.
Okay.
But I've predicted this all along. This is not an instant reaction. I've predicted this all along. Go back and watch 100% footy. I said it 2 years ago. I said our game won't be big enough for him or his management. All right, they'll know that they can get mega money elsewhere, and the time will come where the rugby need it. And I've spoken about Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones has said it a number of times, and he's the catalyst of this. He said this 20 years ago. He said that if we needed outside backs to play in our code at the highest level, be it Super Rugby or be it International Rugby, we need to go and buy a rugby league player, which they did. They went and bought Wendell Saylor and Lottie Cleary and Matt Rogers and Andrew Walker and all those players that sort of went across there because they said the rugby development system is not good enough here. And he still holds that view today.
Well, it's got worse.
I interviewed him for Stan in the off-season. I said, do you still hold that view? He said, yeah, I do. And what's the first thing he's gone and done? He's gone out and signed Joseph Suaalii. Right? I don't want our game to be a feeder system to it. We've got some outstanding young players. We've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, put a lot of emotional effort into the development of young players. It's my passion, developing young players, all right? Setting up systems where a club can develop players and have a relationship with them over a long period of time. What I don't want is them thinking, all right, well, that's a stepping stone because at 21, 22 and I've made my name, I can go and get myself a couple of $1 million in rugby.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, well, if you want to go and sign those deals, go now. Go now. All right, but don't be using rugby league up as a stepping stone to that. I don't like that, and I can't see how anyone would. I can understand Trent Robinson. He was always going to come out and say that because he's got a relationship with the player and he wants to stick up with him for the next 18 months and he wants everything to be kosher and he wants to have a chance to get him back. I suppose someday into the future, that's what we're thinking. But inwardly, they'll be filthy. Don't worry about that. Absolutely, they'll be filthy.
Yeah.
Because they were actually filthy at the comments I made over the last 2 years that rugby league won't hold him. They thought they would, but they didn't.
Well, the salary cap means they can't hold him.
Well, not if that sort of money's available to them elsewhere. And it's not every player that can do it, but every young kid will think they can do it. And that's why the development of rugby league in New Zealand and Pacific Island nations, that's why I've been trying to get the commission and get people to get investing in these areas, because rugby is the major sport in those areas. That's the major sport, right? But they'll see development in rugby league as a pathway through to that, right? What I'm saying is we have to have our own rugby league pathway so we build the relationship with these people and that rugby is not the major sport in those areas. It's not a matter of fear. It's a matter of promotion of our code and respect for our own code. It's as simple as that.
Very good.
Why is that?
You've done it again.
What?
You're the best. The human headline. It's not Darren Hinge. It's Gus Gould. Is Jack Wighton going to go to rugby, Gus?
God knows.
He might go too.
I don't know.
Maybe he saw the paycheck that Sweeten's getting and gone, I'm going to leave the Raiders.
Trust me.
I didn't think of that until now.
Players look at that and they go, crikey.
I'm available over here.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. Oh, Jack Wighton's going to go to the rugby too.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember years ago when Lottie Takiri went over to play with rugby. He was playing for New South Wales. The Waratahs was a Queenslander playing for New South Wales. A Queensland origin star playing for the Waratahs. And I was writing for the Herald at the time. They said, can you go out and cover the game, the rugby game? I said, what for? They said, well, tell us how Lottie goes, you know. I said, why? I don't want to go and promote. Oh, no, well, he's a rugby league player. Can you go out and cover? I said, all right.
Can you imagine the rugby journos when Gus walked into the press box?
Well, I didn't walk into the press box. I went and sat up behind the grandstand at the southern end at the Sydney Football Stadium.
Yeah.
And it rained all night. I got soaking wet. And Lottie Takiri touched the ball twice. The ball never got anywhere near him. So I wrote a column bagging rugby, and they never asked me to do it again.
Oh, at least you're consistent. Hey, with Wighton coming on the market, Wallabies or not, it's not very often you get a marquee playmaker come on the open market, is it? What does that do to the dominoes?
Well, because he's obviously looking at the money that's being. Well, two things. He'd be looking at the money they're earning elsewhere and the reports of contracts and you know what some of the other playmakers are earning and et cetera, et cetera. My mail is he has a desire to live in Queensland. For some reason, be it through some sort of family member or relationship that he's got, I don't know.
He's sick of being cold.
And the other one could well be winning a premiership, which, you know, maybe he's getting to the point where he doesn't think it's going to happen for him at the Raiders. There could be any number of motivations. You'll have to ask Jack Wighton. But again, that would be a concern. It's going to happen more and more, mate. It's the way player management is today, the way our rules are in the NRL, the way the media is with it, you know, they get stars in their eyes and they want to have a change. Now, his reasons might not be for money. It might be because he wants to live somewhere else or he wants to go somewhere he can win a premiership or he's sick of living.
He's always like rugby union.
Yeah, or he doesn't want to live in Canberra anymore. I don't know. Yeah. You'd have to ask Jack Wighton, but yeah. It could be any number of reasons. But don't kid yourself that the publicity around the Suwali deal isn't going to be a carrot for other players to do the same. And I don't care if they do. I just don't want them to use the rugby league as a stepping stone to do it.
Okay. Could Jack Wighton go back to fullback again?
I think he could play anywhere. I think he could play in the forwards. He's a pretty experienced player. He's 30 years of age now, not a kid. And again, you know, at 30 years of age, it's not the end, but you can see the horizon. You know it's coming. So it's, you'll have to ask Jack about.
I'm only asking that because of this stuff coming out of Parra with Clint Gutherson.
All right. Well, I doubt they'd be able to afford They've just signed their halves for mega money, and they've got a couple of big front rowers there on good money. And
that's what I'm worried about. They're talking. That's what I'm curious about. They're talking about trying to sign a game breaker, right? Now, I don't know what this is, but how are they going to afford a game breaker?
I don't think that report was 100% right.
Right.
My understanding is that Clint Gutherson had a casual conversation with his coach about what was best for the team and other players coming through, and what have we got coming through the ranks, and what's our succession plan in different positions, and have we got any young fullbacks in the club, or have we got any other young playmakers you want to give it? I'm happy to play in another position, et cetera, to bolster that. You know, have we got depth in the key positions, in outside backs and that sort of thing? So it was virtually Clint Gutherson as a captain showing concern for the future, and I don't think the approach came from Parramatta at all. How it leaked its way into the media is that I don't know, but I think the story was actually arse up. I think that it was Clint Gutherson who instigated the conversation out of his concern for the future of the team. And, you know, people saying their window is closed. He's trying to say, well, how do we keep it open? Is it me playing another position? Is it bringing, if we got a young fullback? I don't know what we've got in the ranks. Can you let me know? Have we got any other players I can help? Are there young centres here that, you know, I've got to help nurture and develop? And I'm happy to play another position to do it if that's the case. So I don't think it was Parramatta at all saying to him, Clint, we need a new fullback.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the premier fullbacks in the game. He's one of the most competitive players in the game.
His leadership's been obvious this year. Yeah.
I guarantee they won't win many without him.
Yeah, that's right.
If he was to leave. I don't think that was the case at all. I think it was Clint Gutherson instigated the conversation about his concern for the future of the team and how it's functioning and getting more points into their game. You know, they've just come off a big win against the defending premiers. They haven't been embarrassed in any of their games this year. They're still around the money because they're a marquee club. They put them on at the start of the season against all the other marquee clubs. Their draw's been very tough. It's going to get a lot easier for Parramatta as time goes on. That's why I said they'll hop on one leg and make the top 8, and they'll still be a force at the back end of the year. But I think the story was upside down. I think it was a little bit of information and add up 2 and 2 and get 5.
Okay.
So I think it came more from Gutherson than anything else.
Ask Gus at Ula Vale Kid. I apologise if I've got that Twitter handle incorrect, but at ULA Vale Kid, KIDD. Can Josh Schuster for the Seagulls be the future of the Samoan team's halves with Jerome Luai? I'd imagine he would be, wouldn't he?
He could be, absolutely. He could play in the forwards for him. I know he wants to play 5'8". He could play. Yeah, he's a talented player.
Where would you be playing him? Is he a back rower or is he a 5'8"?
Oh, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. He's making a good fist of where he is at the moment.
Good player.
He is.
With a line in the sand now from the NRL, what's to stop halfbacks rolling around like soccer players looking for a penalty on the fractional late hit?
Very good question.
So is this is the one where they pass and they get whacked after that?
Yeah.
It's one of Joey's.
That bloke should not be doing 4 weeks on the sideline for that tackle. No way in the world he should be doing 4 weeks on the sideline for that tackle. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, I've argued with, not argued, but Joey and I have talked about this at all. I think he's made too big a deal out of all of that. You know, you need to pressure every player in the game, and you know, it's a long explanation for this, and I don't really want to go into it because you're not going to win the argument, and it's a waste of time. But you know, we're treating them like they're made of porcelain, and you know, everything's fair game out there. And he didn't hit him in the head. He didn't hit him high. It wasn't illegal. Had it not been a fraction late, there was no reason to even penalise the tackle. He's been wrapped for his defence the whole time. He should not be doing 4 weeks on the sideline for that tackle. That's a travesty.
Yeah, it's
as simple as that. I'm not saying I condone illegal play, but halfbacks, whether they're kicking the ball or passing the ball, have got to be aware that if they want to hold on to it, they're going to get hit.
Yeah. All
right. And you want them thinking about it. You want them to rush what they're doing. That's the whole purpose. That's what our game is. Everyone wants to take that out of the game. All right. People who don't play the game or they fear being in that position themselves, so they think no one else should be. But that's always been the part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's such a marginal thing to determine if the player's committed or if a player has hit someone late. Particularly, we look at things in super slow-mo. On the field.
Well, in my day, they told us don't turn your back on the opposition for a start. Don't turn your back and protect yourself at all times. And I'm not saying that that's the solution here at all, but that's how we were brought up playing the game. If the halfback dummies or goes himself or what have you, and the bloke hasn't started or committed to his tackle, well, then he's going to be the one that gets dropped. And what they're doing, they've got to put pressure on the playmakers. There is nothing wrong with putting pressure on people and intimidating people. That should still be a part of the game. The halfback's got to know that every time he passes the ball or every time he's going to pass the ball, someone is looking to knock him over. You can't just give them free rein.
Yeah.
Nowadays we've got to the point when you got to stand there while the bloke catches the ball before you can touch him. When you kick the ball in the air, you can't contest the ball in the air. There's so much of the competition and everything. Everyone's, I don't know, they just think they're made of porcelain. It's become, anyway, that's just an old bloke talking.
Thank you very much, Kevin Whiteman. And Ben Copland 12 asks Gus, do the Warriors make the 8? And if not, why? The Warriors are in 4th after 4 weeks of the comp.
Yeah, they're one of those. They haven't had much luck. I mean, when you consider the program they've been on through COVID, where they were away from home for a long period of time, and that made recruitment and retention very hard for them and put a lot of pressure on families, etc. And then even last year when they started to get their home games back and played, they had terrible injury problems. They couldn't keep their team on the field long enough, and they have obviously travel issues and time difference issues, and they contend with a lot, the Warriors. But they look really solid at the moment. The defence looks good, and Sean Johnson is back to the sort of form that we knew from years ago, and they've got some great young talents coming through. They're doing really well with their development programs there, and
there's a bit of steel about them. There's
no reason why they can't make the 8. Yeah, absolutely. It's as I said, the winner of this competition is well hidden this year. It's quite an open competition, and whilst I don't think the spots for the 8 are all that open, certainly there are a couple that are a chance of dropping out, and Warriors is one team that have made a statement that they can make it.
Question without notice, you might want to bring up the ladder here. Of the leading teams that are currently languishing in the opening month of the comp, and it is a long, long year, which of those might you be a little bit worried about?
The leading teams?
Leading teams that are languishing down the bottom of the ladder.
Down the bottom.
Who would you be a little bit worried about?
So what are you talking about? So we've got Tigers at the bottom?
In terms of top 8, teams you would have thought would make the 8 leading teams. Who would you be concerned about at this stage?
Raiders made the 8 last year.
Yep.
And they're back in second last position, and that was pretty dismal on the weekend.
It was
the second half. They're much, much better than that. The Eels are running 15th, but they will make the 8.
No doubt?
No doubt in the world they will make the 8. Dragons, they're a much better team than what their form is showing at the moment. I can't believe they're where they are. Cowboys, that's an interesting one because they've got some injury issues at the moment. I still think the cream will rise to the top there. They're hot behind sides like the Knights, the Titans, the Bulldogs. Storm is outside the 8. Storm, yeah.
Oh, you're a bit
I don't know
hesitant
so
about
much.
Melbourne.
I'm looking at the ones in the 8 and who's likely to drop out. So I think Bronco plays. I think Sea Eagle plays. Dolphins, I've said, look, I think the season will get a bit too long for them. Warrior have made a statement. Roosters are there. Sharks are there. Panthers are there. Rabbitohs are there. So you're only really looking at Dolphins, who I think are precarious in the top 8. Warriors less so. Of the ones outside the 8, I'm convinced Eels will make it. Raiders have got a lot of ground to make up, and the Cowboys are the ones that I expected to be premiership challengers this year that have got off to a slow start, but they should be able to pick it up through the middle part of the year.
So for the first time in 20-something years, Gus, you're a bit wobbly on Melbourne.
I said earlier this year I couldn't see a premiership in Melbourne. I certainly couldn't see top 4, and they would be about where they were last year. And where they ended up last year, I think they finished 6th or something, didn't they? Well, that's kind of where they're going at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll always be hard to beat. They've got Munster, and they've got to get Hughes back, and I don't know what's happening with Pappenhausen if he was to play, and Harry Grant. They've got the spine there to do it, but they're not all playing together at the moment. There's no guarantee Pappenhausen's going to get back.
Yeah.
And they've lost a lot of forward depth. They've lost a lot of experience and a lot of hard men out of those forward packs. And you can't survive on spine alone. Forwards win games. Backs just decide by how many. I think their forwards have always been underrated in that great era that the Storm have been through.
Well, they're doing great things at the Dolphins.
Absolutely. In the senior years, they're up there at the Dolphins doing them, we've had a month of football. It's hard to be drawing any conclusions at the moment. I don't think there are any teams there I would definitely write off that were in the 8 last year, and there are plenty playing well. So certainly six of the 8 that are currently in the 8, I would expect to nearly be there at the back end of the season, and then your Cowboys and your Eels and your Storm fight out the other 2 spots if they can. But confidence is a big thing. Momentum's a big thing. If the Warriors and the Dolphins can just string a few more together, and these other sides happen to drop a couple, and then they get into the Origin period, and their stars are away for a couple of games, and then they've got to go through an Origin series and come back and get ready. You could find yourself 6 or 8 points out of the 8 with 8 rounds to go. It's not easy to make up. So every game's important, and as we've seen, the results were a little bit closer, so they're harder to win.
Hey, so we are doing a second series of the Stories of Origin podcast.
Right.
This year...
Didn't we tell all the stories last time?
Yeah, pretty much. This year, the theme is memorable performances. And I had the pleasure last week of sitting down with Brad Fittler and Billy Slater together to talk about the 2004 series, where Billy debuted, as you vividly remember, with his miracle try. And, of course, that was the year when he called Brad Fittler out of retirement for game number 2 after winning the first game. Freddie came back, hopefully seal it up at Suncorp Stadium. Didn't quite happen, but came back here to Sydney and he got his appropriate send-off with what was a 7th series victory as a player, which is a remarkable record. So, as a bit of a throw forward to what's coming up on Stories of Origin Series 2, which will be out on May 1. The series will start on May 1. Here's how Freddie recalled his recall to the Origin arena.
Got a phone call in the morning. The night before, we'd played Canterbury, and we'll sort of most show the two of the stronger teams, and went down to the wire. Tough game, and they ended up beating us. So anyway, I woke up in the morning and got a phone call from Gus, and he said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah, ready to go."
So you knew exactly what he was calling about?
When he rang, I just picked it up, and it sort of literally the phone call took 20 seconds.
Wow.
And I went for a jog up the beach. And then when I got back to home, I got a phone call from Ricky Stewart, who was our Roosters coach. And his was very different to Gus's phone call.
So Ricky wasn't calling about the Origin. He was calling about
last night's game. No, Ricky was saying, in amongst expletives, it was, you need to come to training, and we're going to train. And so we got to Wentworth Park, where we used to train, and just got flogged.
Oh,
I mean, flogged. On roll machines, run up and down stairs, as hard as you could train.
Did you not think about telling him you're going to play in the Origin?
Oh, he knew.
Oh, he knew.
This is like the day after a game, mind you. Like, now they get 4 days rest. So, I've gone into camp, bug. This is after my, David Hasselhoff jog on the sand, flogged by Ricky Stewart, and go into camp.
How funny is that? Ricky nearly sabotaged you. Did you know that?
Oh, no. I knew they were getting a flogging, which was usually what happened when they got beat in those days. But he's right. I never mentioned it. I'd never intimated about it. I'd never speculated about it. I'd never asked him to think about it. I remember the conversation. I said, "Are you ready?" He said, "Yeah."
That's amazing.
So good.
Isn't that amazing?
Bit of telepathy there.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether it would happen, but I remember with Channel 9, we covered Brad Fittler's last game in Origin, which was the one where Alfie came back and flogged them in Brisbane up there that night. And we'd organised for me to go down to the dressing rooms post-game in the Origin coverage and speak to Brad Fittler, hopefully being the winning, in his last game, et cetera, and obviously it all went pear-shaped. And it was such a disappointing way for a great career and a great New South Wales player to end his career, and I think the whole pressure of it got to New South Wales and the Alfie thing and Wayne Bennett, and they got the better of them. And I never ever said it to anyone, and I never ever mentioned it to Freddie, but I thought if ever the day came where I could get him another game, I would love to do it. Not ever really thinking that was going to happen. I wasn't even New South Wales coach at that time. I got convinced to come back and coach New South Wales by Nick Politis and Mark Burris at a Christmas Eve lunch at Woolloomooloo, where they filled me full of wine and then convinced me to coach the Origin side. So I hadn't had plans of coming back, but I'd always sort of hoped. And we won the series in 2002. We had a drawn series in 2002. We won the series in 2003. And then in 2004, we had a lot of drama leading into game one, and we lost some players through injuries. And I think we had something like 5 halfbacks in that series. 2 of them didn't play. They got injured at training. And it got to game 2, and I thought, do I wait for game 3 or do I try to do it now? And I said, so we ran out of troops, and I wanted to do it, and I rang him and I said, are you ready? And he said, yep. He came in for game 2, and we got beaten by the Billy Slater miracle try. 8 metres offside. Him and that Lockyer bloke, 8 metres offside.
So, it's fun.
They actually changed the rule after that. I blew up and they said I was whinging, but they did change the rule after that about having both feet behind the kicker. He didn't have anything behind the kicker. He had a memory behind the kicker. He was 3 metres in front of him.
I've looked at it a number of times in preparation for this series, and he was onside.
No, he wasn't. No chance in the world. He's not that fast.
But
it was brilliant what he did after that. But anyway, and then after that game, he kind of said, well, what do you want to do? I said, no, we'll win in Sydney. You play in Sydney. And he was a big reason we won in Sydney. I didn't make much of a deal out of the Brisbane game, to be honest, about Freddie coming back. I made no big deal about him being there at all. But for the third one, with the last session, when Freddie wasn't there, I just said to the other players, I said, you'll remember this game forever if you win it. So.
Yeah, it's an incredible series, because game 3's Freddie wins with the charge down. Of course, the game was won, but it was his, his moment. Game 2 was Billy's chip and chase. And game 1 was the first ever Golden Point Origin. Yeah. And Sean Timmins kicked the field goal. Now, how the bloody hell did he end up at 5/8?
Well, I wasn't coaching club football that time, and I really hadn't been in Golden Points or anything like that. So I got to the end of the game, Golden Point, and I'm standing around there, and I said, well, what happens now? I said, well, it's Golden Point. I go, all right, I turn around, and there's Sean Timmins standing next to me. I said, what are you doing here? He said, you brought me off 10 minutes ago. I said, well, get back out there. He said, do what? I said, play anywhere. Just get back out there. Bring Joe off and get yourself out there. So Sean went out and kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
Was still right. He kicked it from 40 metres out. It was still rising when it got to the uprights.
We are in Golden Point extra time. A shot from Timmins has got the height. It's got the length, and the crowd goes up. Hempstead awards the point. The Blues have won it. The Blues have won Origin 1. A field goal by Sean Timmins, who scored their lone try.
So Sean Timmins has rarely ever kicked a ball in a game, and I don't think he'd ever played 5/8 before.
I think he played 5/8, and I think I'd used him at 5/8 in the series the year before.
Okay.
But
because you had a lot. You mentioned how you had a lot of halves unavailable.
He was a real Origin player. Like, he was a real footballer. Yeah. I didn't know he could kick a field goal, and I don't know if he did either. And I never told him to kick a field goal. But I turned around, and he somehow, with my interchange and everything, getting to the back end of the game, because it was 8-8. And Craig Gower had a chance to kick a field goal in normal time and drop the ball right in front of their post, which was our last. But Craig Gower was playing with a torn MCL. He didn't play for like 3 months after that, and we were in a bit of trouble. And we'd lost players, if you go back and read the record books, the media were giving us a hell of a serve because they didn't want us to win, and we had a bit of drama, and we had to move some players on, et cetera, et cetera. So we weren't expected to win that game, but we got to 8-8. Anyway, I'm standing around, and I've totally lost track of interchange and everything. I don't even know how many interchanges you're supposed to make. And Sean Timmins is standing. I said, what are you doing here? He said, you took me off 10 minutes ago. I said, well, get back out there. He said, where? I said, I don't care. Just go out and take Tommy off. Come here. Get out there.
You won the game.
So he's gone out there and kicked a 40-metre field goal.
It's remarkable, isn't it? It's incredible.
Don't ever think anything's planned.
Oh, mate, he hit it flush.
He nailed it. It was never going to miss. Yeah. It was still rising when it got to the post.
Yeah.
Brilliant kick.
It's like golf. You shouldn't think about it. Just hit it.
I've tried to tell you that.
There you go. Stories of Origin Series 2. Freddie and Billy together. And thankfully we've recorded that far enough out from Origin 1 that they're getting on very well. Let's have a look at round 5. our 3 games on 9 this week are crackers. Now, I'm so excited to call tomorrow night's game at Allianz that I may well head out after this and sleep in the commentary box. It's big enough. Roosters on Bluebet as of 9 a.m. today, Wednesday, the 29th of the 3rd, 2023. $1.53 favourites against Parramatta at $2.50. 2 big-name exclusions for both teams, though. Joey Manu out for the Roosters. Junior Polor out for Parramatta.
Mm. Yeah, 100% footy the other night. Right at the end of the show, they asked me, and I thought, well, I think Eels can get the money. Now I'm not so sure. I think that's a big out. The front rower, ball rower. I just don't.
So is Manu, though.
Yeah, but, they've got 12 rep players in their side. It's a hard one. I think Rooster. I'm converting to Rooster.
Okay.
I'll probably win that one.
Roosters for Gus. Early game Friday. Raiders without Jack Wighton, who's been suspended for a fortnight for that hit on the kicker, which was Jackson Hastings on Sunday. They're $4 outsiders against the Panthers at $1.25. No Luke Garner for Penrith. He's been left out. He's got some niggles. So the back row, which last year was Viliami Kikau and Liam Martin, is this week Scott Sorensen and Zach Hosking.
Mm. And Liam Martin's not named on any extended bench, so he's definitely out. And I think Jamin Salmon might be in some danger too. He injured himself at training during the week.
Right.
So there could be another couple that come out there. There's an old saying, teams disappoint on the road, they come home and they can lift. Canberra would have to lift enormously, particularly without Wighton. Mind you, the Panthers, and they too have been playing the top sides, their defence is still as good as it's ever been. I mean, in all the games they've played, they still haven't conceded more than 10 or 12 points in these games, and they've only been going down narrowly if they do. They've just got to get their attack sorted. I think Panthers should be too strong there.
Our Friday night game comes from Accor Stadium at Sydney Olympic Park. Rabbitohs $1.55 favourites. Melbourne $2.45. Harme Sellia's back from concussion for South Sydney. Now, Alex Johnson's okay. You saw he had his leg bandaged pretty heavily last week. One change for the Melbourne Storm with Tom Eisenhuth onto the bench. Tyron Wishart is out. No Jerome Hughes. He's a week away from returning from suspension. But young Jonah Pezzett stays in the team at 7, partnered by Cameron Munster. Now, did I read Melbourne's got a terrible record against... South's got a terrible record against Melbourne?
I don't know. I don't really care much for history. It doesn't have any bearing on what's about to happen this week. I see South Sydney as being a little too settled. I don't think South Sydney are playing anywhere near their potential, mind you. I don't think they're playing great. But they should have a little bit too much artillery here for the Storm.
Storm won 7 of their last 8 against South, for the record. Okay, Manly versus Newcastle, 3 p.m. at Glen Willow Oval, Mudgee, in front of Ken Sutcliffe and all of the good people of Mudgee. Beautiful part of the world. What can I tell you here? Well, pretty much steady. Oh, no, Morgan Harper's in. Tolu Kohler's out for Manly. Lachlan Croker comes back. Now, Kurt Mann, he's Category 1 HIA, so he's out for 11 days. Jack Johns is the starting lock. Do you like the beast, Greg Marzu? What about him?
Yeah, he's a beauty, isn't he? They've been terrific, Newcastle. They had that backs-to-the-wall win against the Tigers at Leichhardt, and it wasn't looking too good for them on the weekend, but they were just stormed over the top of the Raiders, didn't they? They played some really good football, and they've got to be careful, the Seagulls.
$1.20 Manly, $4.50 Newcastle, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure that market is really reflective of their probability, but I will go with Seagull at home.
Okay. Can the Red V find something down in Wollongong? They're $1.74 favourites against the Dolphins at $2.10, 5:30 on Saturday. Jack de Belin is back in for the Dragons. Anthony Milford goes to halfback. Isaiah Katoa comes back into the team. No Tessie New with a knee, so Jack Bostock will get a debut. Jerry Marshall-King is back too at hooker. And Herman Essa returns from a pec injury at prop. So there's quite a few changes for Wayne Bennett's team.
Yes. I think that the Dolphins' losing performance against the Bronco was better than the Dragons' losing performance against Shark. I can't believe that the Dragons would play that badly again. This is not a hopeless looking lineup. I mean, Brown, Faggy, Moses Surley, Zach Lomax, Michaela Ravaloa, Crikey, Ben Hunt, Jaden Sullivan, Moses Zembai, Blake. Why isn't this team winning games? What's going on here?
Would you like to coach that team, Gus?
They'll have plenty of applicants if they call for applicants. It's not the worst roster in the world, I can tell you. I can't understand their form. I can't understand how that side's conceded 40 points in 2 games. It was rather dismal in the second half against the Sharks. The first half wasn't that good. You could see it was only going to take one thing to push the floodgates open, and that it did, and they gave up pretty meekly. But I think, how can you trust them? Honestly, Dolphins have been far more consistent. Can they take it on the road? Can they take it to Wollongong? That'll be their big test, but they've got the right coach. Plenty of work rate on the bench. Maybe Dolphin wants it more. I'll go with Coach Bennett on this one, even though I think the Dragons. I said to you, this team won't run last. I keep looking at their roster and keep thinking this team should be winning games. Anyway, I'll go with Coach Bennett, Dolphin.
I'm glad you mentioned the Dolphins bench, because he hasn't changed his bench at all this year. He's a bit like you. You pick your bench first, maybe. Wallace, Nichols, Stone, Teague.
Gives him a lot of options.
Good bench.
It gives him a lot of work rate. If they're in front, they can protect the lead, and if they're behind, they can force the issue. There's some talent there. Young Mason Teague's a young boy from the Panthers junior system. He's a really good kid. Ray Staines a worker. Mark Nichols, he took him from South. Jared Wallace. That's a really good bench. If they can get off to a good start. Look, it's hard. Look, Ben Hunt just might be the difference in those two teams. Ben Hunt could blow it up. Ben Hunt could win it for the Dragons. But if you're relying on the one individual, I think the Dolphins are more together as a group at the moment.
Okay.
Look, Dragons should win. Dragons should win. I just don't know. I don't know.
Should win, but you're not tipping them.
No, I'm going to go with Bennett.
Saturday night, 7:30, Suncorp Stadium. Broncos $1.16, Tigers $5.25. Say no more?
Say no more.
Sharks, Warriors, Sunday, footy at PointsBet Stadium. The Sharks are 6th, the Warriors are 4th, and I can't wait to get there down at the first time down in the Triangle this year, and this is going to be a great game.
I'm calling that game. I'm really looking forward to it.
So am I.
Local game for me. So, Shark back at home, and Nicho Hynes in that sort of form. It's going to be a real test for the Warrior, who I think are defending much better and showing a lot of grit. I will go with Shark. I think they might have too many points in them.
T's playing really well for the Warriors. Well, a few of them are, but Dylan Walker's been super.
Yeah, Dylan's created a role for himself in that lock forward position where he uses his great experience, and he's obviously still got some leg speed being a former outside back, and he causes teams some trouble. But, look, they didn't need too much to go right, the Bulldogs, to maybe beat the Warriors last week. I think the Sharks will be too good for them this week.
And lucky it's a local game, Gus, because you can duck around the corner, get yourself set up with your popcorn, and you can watch the Bulldogs up against the Cowboys at 6:15. Bulldogs $1.85, Cowboys $1.95. Josh Reynolds is in.
Yes.
How good.
He's
First time in 6 years.
He's been...
Is he bouncing around the joint?
I'm sure he is. I haven't been there today. I had yesterday off. But he's playing. He had a game in reserve grade last week over there in New Zealand, and he's going to sit on the bench, number 14. I don't know what plan the coach has got for him, but they've done really well, the Bulldogs, given the injury situation that they've had. They've been competitive in their game, so hopefully they're competitive against one of the season front runners.
Just one other point of interest in this game. Number 17 for the Cowboys, Riley Price, is the son of Bulldogs legend Steve Price.
Steve Price, yeah.
Makes his debut.
That's at Accor Stadium this week.
That's right.
So it's the first home game for the Bulldogs at the big stadium there at Homebush.
All right, what do you got?
What have I got for the weekend? I'm tipping... I've changed. I'm going to tip Rooster. I'm going to tip Panther. I'm going to tip Rabbit. I'm going to tip Seagull. I'm going to tip Dolphin. I'm going to tip Bronco. And I'm going to tip Shark.
And Bulldog. Thank you. We covered some ground today, didn't we?
Sure did.
Great chat. We'll be back next week for Six Tackles with Gus. Hope you can join us then. Enjoy the footy over the weekend.